Hey, not really saving the climate here, AOC, if you're using all of that jet fuel.
Come on. Double standards?
Oh my goodness. AOC and I have a long history. 5 years ago, when I hinted that I would vote for Trump over Bernie Sanders, she tore me apart. And she's always been a raging hypocrite. Remember a couple years ago, she wore this designer-made dress to the Met Gala at the same time that she's masquerading as a woman of the people. She claims to be a democratic socialist.
Picture Lindi Li launching verbal punches at AOC with the flair of a wrestling showdown, while AOC slips around the questions as if she's caught in a looping dance challenge. In the heat of it all, AOC appears to lose track of her own narrative as the scene shifts from a soft-spoken activist's recital to something closer to a bustling courtroom clash. And it wasn't just Lindi Li pointing fingers. Others joined in, adding to the pressure. One after another, sharp reminders of reality piled up before her, like a never-ending feast she couldn't ignore. Trust me, this spectacle is the kind you'll want to grab a front row seat for.
On private jets and is wearing a cap in first class because she doesn't want to be recognized. And then Bernie Sanders, I mean, come on, this is a guy who went to communist Russia and purports to be a man of the people, yet he's using the hard-earned money, this hard-working money of everyday Americans around the country to fly private.
If you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe. It helps more than you might expect. That morning, after brewing what had to be the strongest cup of coffee imaginable, Lindi Li likely told herself, no one gets a free pass today. Unfortunately for AOC, she ended up at the very top of that list. What followed was anything but polite. There was no quick way out, no simple response. AOC became the stalled car stuck in the middle of a roaring demolition derby, taking hit after hit in a storm of sharp words. The sting of embarrassment only fueled the flames higher.
Since I got elected, Republicans have attacked me by saying that I should go back to bartending. But let me tell you, I'm happy to any day of the week because there is nothing wrong with working for a living. Imagine having leaders in the White House who understand that.
True to form, AOC did her best to hold her ground, complete with long pauses, emphatic gestures, and that trademark look of indignation. But Lindi Li wasn't buying any of it. She stormed in with the force of a human wrecking ball, so much so that even Miley Cyrus might have taken notes. Each attempt AOC made to shield herself only backfired, giving Lindi the perfect setup for a cutting remark, sharp enough to slice through the moment like a samurai's blade.
They spent $1 billion.
If my donors had known that in advance, they wouldn't have given. This is just ridiculous. And I'm sorry to say that. Well, every time I criticize something, I can just hear, I can just feel the knives being thrown in my back.
Picture AOC insisting she was simply misunderstood, as if convincing an audience could magically erase the stack of evidence piling up like unpaid bills. She twisted, stalled, and sidestepped with the flair of someone auditioning for a Broadway role. Only this time, Hamilton was nowhere in sight. What unfolded was pure embarrassment. The harder she tried to slip away from the problem, the deeper she buried herself. It was like watching someone locked in a battle with their own shadow and losing.
Because it's like a very insular community, but again, at this point in my life, we're not allowed to curse here, right? I don't care. This is just the right thing to do. This reminds me of the PPP program through which Kanye got a few $1 million, and I love Tom Brady, but come on, Tom Brady doesn't need taxpayer money. This is just, can you imagine people giving $25 or $50, and it means so much.
And it wasn't just Lindi Li calling her out. Others joined the chorus. Screenshots, receipts, plot holes, and contradictions from AOC's long-running storyline were all laid bare. Then, like a surgeon fueled by double shots of espresso, Lindi sliced through every detail with precision. This wasn't a chat. It was part roast, part forensic takedown. Each time she landed another point, you could almost hear the faint echo of a courtroom gavel in the background. The most ironic moment? AOC's attempt to play it cool. Her face told a different story, like when someone insists they're calm, but their twitching eye keeps sending secret signals in Morse code. Lindi became a walking lie detector, growing sharper with every denial, even as AOC tried to brush everything off. If this had been a game show, it would have been nearly impossible to choose the winning moment. Think alley-oop into a windmill dunk plus a bonus three-pointer for flair. AOC looked like she had wandered into a friendly board game night, not realizing she had actually signed up for a brutal round of Survivor.
One of the only people in this body who has lived off of tips. I want to tell you a little bit about the scam of that text, a little bit of the fine print there. The cap on that is $25,000. While you're jacking up taxes on people who make less than $50,000 across the United States, while taking away their SNAP, while taking away their Medicaid, while kicking them off of the ACA and their healthcare extensions. So if you're at home and you're living off tips, you do.
Lindi Li wasn't just wrapping things up, she was delivering a full masterclass in verbal takedowns. Her blend of razor-sharp accuracy and biting sarcasm wasn't the kind that fades, it's the kind that echoes long after. Meanwhile, AOC looked like she was reconsidering her entire career path, mentally updating her resume mid-speech and wondering if Trader Joe's was still hiring. To be fair, AOC didn't give up without effort. She spun, she dodged, she tried every trick in her bag, but instead of pulling out a wrench, she produced a rubber chicken. Each attempt grew more frantic, like patching a leaking dam only to realize your duct tape is actually a sticky note. The classic fallback of "you're being unfair" landed with all the fizz of flat soda. Through it all, Lindi stood firm. Her responses weren't fueled by malice, but by precision. So sharp they could have sliced through steel. They cut clean, stripping away all the nonsense, and by that stage, AOC wasn't holding the spotlight anymore. She had become the punchline.
Again, you would know this better than anyone else, so why don't you tell us what the hell is going on and how we got here?
You really can't make this shit up. These sorts of things, these boondoggles, that goes right into the pockets of consultants, by the way. And it's the same group of people. They move from one campaign to the next. It doesn't matter if they win or lose, they're still gonna cash that paycheck. And that's why they had like advertising down here in ruby red.
The irony was almost too perfect. AOC had built her brand on bold declarations and fiery speeches, but the moment she went up against someone just as determined, just as passionate, and far more prepared, she crumbled like a flimsy lawn chair. Lindi, meanwhile, revealed every hidden flaw with the flair of a magician pulling endless rabbits from a hat, and the spectacle only grew sharper from there. What made it so riveting wasn't just that Lindi Li was tearing into AOC, it was the satisfaction of seeing someone finally call out the contradictions, the half-truths, and the smoke and mirrors routine live without pause or filter. For anyone who had ever rolled their eyes at the act, this was catharsis in motion. If AOC thought she could bluff her way through, she had underestimated her opponent badly. It felt like watching a reality show contestant realize too late that the cameras never stopped rolling. No editing, no polishing, just raw chaos unfolding in real time. The audience, Lindi, and even the moment itself seemed to be in sync, savoring every second of the unraveling. Something in that room shifted, and everyone knew it.
Final straw, the moment that I knew that I needed to leave was actually around Christmas Eve. When the chair of the party, he's the biggest clown that the Democratic Party has ever, like honestly, in recent history, I can't think of a more incompetent boob than this man. And if you just look at him,
it's pretty bad to be an incompetent boob. That's not good. DNC Chair Rob, can you pull up which one are you?
Lindi didn't just walk away. She dropped a verbal bomb without even looking back at the blast. AOC, standing in the haze, kept insisting none of it really mattered. But it did. Every word counted. The funniest part was that she genuinely thought she could control the chaos. Picture someone clutching an umbrella in the middle of a hurricane, convinced it would keep them dry, except the storm was Lindi Li, the wind was mocking, and the umbrella was flipped inside out. Each of Lindi's rebuttals struck with the precision of a guided missile, cutting off AOC's sentences before they could land. And with every denial, the fire only grew hotter. The stack of receipts against her towered so high, it might as well have had its own postal code. The more AOC brushed things off, the more it felt like Lindi was plucking fresh evidence out of thin air, adding to the mountain right in front of everyone's eyes.
They don't care if the candidate wins, they're still gonna make that dollar. And so they're spending $20 million on some sort of anthropological study of American men. Why don't they actually go out there and meet them?
Yeah, talk to them, get to know them, understand.
Exactly.
Picture AOC clutching at a lifeline only to realize the person on the other end is holding a pair of scissors. That's exactly how she looked. Cornered, desperate, scrambling for a way out. She tried switching topics mid-sentence, hoping no one would notice. But Lindi noticed. She always did. Every twist was unraveled, every pivot intercepted, every dodge blocked. It was like trying to hide a full marching band behind a curtain. You can hear it, you can see it, and nobody's fooled. The absurdity only grew when AOC kept denying everything with absolute confidence. For a moment, Lindi humored her, but by the end, the denials sounded less like defenses and more like punchlines. Watching someone so obsessed with appearances collapse into real-time contradictions was almost comedic. AOC's entire brand, being the sharpest voice in the room, fiery in delivery, untouchable in debate, was cracking right in front of everyone.
Sense from like AOC that he should be impeached is just absurd. Absurd. There's no... Okay, get back to me when you've read the Constitution or get a law degree, because you sound like an absolute fucking idiot. There is absolutely no ground to impeach the president. He 100% was within his constitutional authority and his congressionally authorized authority to do what he did on Saturday. Okay, but as for whether it's a good idea, that's a debate we should be having. And look, you know, if we could get congressional approval of the specific action, fine, I'm okay with that too. If you want to bring it to Congress, go ahead and see how that goes. I don't think it's necessary, but go.
Not only was AOC no longer the sharpest person in the room, she wasn't even the most prepared. While Lindi walked in ready for the test, AOC looked like she had forgotten there was one at all. And the audience? Their reactions said everything. The side eyes that silently asked, "Did she really just say that?" The quick gasps, the muffled laughter. It was the perfect backdrop for her unraveling. Even those who weren't Lindi's fans couldn't deny the sheer spectacle. It was like watching someone balance on a spinning globe while insisting the earth is flat, bizarre, hilarious, and impossible to look away from. Beneath AOC's polished surface, fear was leaking through. She clung to the same denial again and again as if repetition would magically turn it into truth. Spoiler, it didn't. It came off like a sloppy remix of a song no one ever wanted to hear. Meanwhile, Lindi's words kept cutting deep. The contrast between the two was so stark, you could practically feel the imbalance of power humming through the room.
This is, you know, and just because you care about these issues doesn't make you sexist or racist. I don't think so, and I don't think that the field was going to clear for her. I think that's a false assumption because people understand that this is a fundamentally weak candidate.
I'm out of time. Thank you for yours, and we'll speak in the new year, okay? Lindi Li.
Thank you so much.
And then came the turning point, and AOC finally realized she couldn't spin her way out any longer. You could see it flash across her face, that quiet panic of, "Oh no, I'm done." She'd never admit it, of course. Instead, she put on the mask, the shrug, the smirk, the dismissive "this doesn't matter" routine. But it mattered, and everyone knew it. The more she pretended not to care, the more obvious it became that she did. There's almost something poetic about it. The self-styled queen of quick comebacks, suddenly forced to ramble out long explanations built from receipts that weren't even hers. By the time Lindi landed her final strike, AOC wasn't just losing the exchange. She was exposed. Not with drama, but with the humiliation that lingered. That's what makes it worse. Scandals fade, but no one forgets the moment someone is roasted so completely they can't even muster a defense. And here's the kicker. Lindi didn't gloat. She didn't wave her victory around. She delivered her last line, let the silence settle, and carried on as if it were any other ordinary day. That's how you know it cut deep. Because real triumph doesn't need applause.
Your mom, and how soon was it? After the election? Like,
a
when
week or
was
two.
it?
When it wasn't at that point, I was just asking questions. Like, it wasn't even. I was like, what happened to the $2.5 billion we raised? Why did we spend it on Beyonce? Why did we spend 2.5? Why did we spend millions of dollars on Oprah? Like legitimate questions that needed to be answered. But the amount of hate I got for that was just overwhelming.
Everyone nearby could sense exactly what had just taken place, even if AOC walked away pretending nothing had gone wrong. The truth was clear. She hadn't just stumbled. She had been shoved across the stage, dismantled piece by piece, and turned into a live punchline. What made it sting even more was Lindi Li's approach. She didn't pounce immediately. She waited, letting AOC squirm, letting her dig deeper, before carefully stripping away her composure. That was the real blow. Her confidence cracked in plain sight. It was the same story we'd seen before. AOC leaned on the shrug, the smirk, the dismissive "this doesn't matter" routine. But it did matter, and the audience knew it. With each denial, each contradiction, her supporters started to wonder whether the emperor actually had no clothes. By the end, There wasn't even a contest anymore. AOC's greatest fear, the collapse of her carefully crafted image, was playing out live, and everyone was watching. And Lindi, she didn't just score a win, she erased the scoreboard, rewrote the rules, and set fire to the stadium for good measure. That's what made it so unforgettable. It wasn't showy or theatrical, it was surgical, deliberate, and absolute. This wasn't about a single jab or a clever one-liner. It was about dismantling the illusion AOC had built for years. That's why Lindi's name stuck long after the moment ended. While AOC's explanations sounded weaker with each attempt, Lindi represented something different, the rare voice that refused to buy the act. She didn't just expose contradictions, she exposed the fear behind them. And in doing so, she left a mark deeper than any dramatic gloat could. Lindi didn't just win the exchange, she rewrote its history.